We are now recording.
Manually.
Lots of hand movement, even louder now that you've done it once before. Pause a little more. Try to go for volume, go for impact.
Okay. It is summer 1993, 2 years after the Soviet Union dissolved and a new country named Kazakhstan, among 15 others, has emerged in a global map. Under boiling sun, a small group of 11-year-old boys are meticulously searching the site known as a dairy farm that is near the village where they live. It used to be a place that had hundreds of employees who took care of thousands of cows. However, after the collapse of the USSR, this dairy farm, like other state-owned enterprises, closed its doors and laid off its employees. The socialist business model that lasted for 70 years did not and could not prepare the Soviet people and state-owned enterprises for capitalism, making them obsolete overnight. Now, yesterday's Soviet socialist republics are collectively embarking on an open market ship under tight navigation of the World Bank. Boys are too young to fully comprehend the tectonic shift that has been going through their country. All that they have noticed so far at school, instead of Stalin and Lenin, they have to praise the first president of independent Kazakhstan. Not a big deal. What boys are looking for in a dairy farm are copper wires that they can sell to a middleman who comes to their village every month to collect it. He offers only 50 cents for a pound. Boys know that they can get twice as much for a pound in a city that is 100 miles away. But in order to justify a trip to a city, they have to collect more than petty 2 or 3 ounces that they are able to find every day. And they know exactly where there is a gold mine. On the horizon is a looming ahead an abandoned factory that was almost torn down by unemployed adults, perhaps by former factory workers who took copper wires out of the floor and walls of the factory. There are still plenty of copper wires to harvest. At least boys think so. But they couldn't go there. Their parents prohibited it. It is too dangerous now. The unstable walls of the factory may collapse unexpectedly at any time and bury the boys. The boys sighed deeply and continued their search for copper wires on the dairy farm. One of these boys was me. Now I am 39 years old and I completely forgot about it. But thanks to the course Waste Not, Want Not, memories came back. I have to say that in the 1990s, a similar situation with collecting copper wires was not only in my village in particular, or even in Kazakhstan in general, but all across the former Soviet Union. But why only copper wires? I don't know. Middlemen created demand for copper wires, and the unemployed people and kids like me supplied it to a single consumer right across the border, China. The booming economy of China needed an endless supply of copper. Depending on location, copper wires were collected on landfills, streets, abandoned factories, or even military bases. Especially alarming was the fact that the copper wires were harvested on abandoned military facilities. Some of those facilities were sites to develop and test nuclear and biological weapons. Thus, it was not only unwise to visit such sites without protection equipment, but it could be potentially dangerous, let alone hunting down copper wires. But once trespassing became invasion, In the beginning of the 1990s, Russia was massively withdrawing its troops and military science personnel from its military bases and so-called closed cities in former Soviet republics, without proper transfer of what was left to newly independent countries. In some cases, governments of those countries didn't even know that such installations exist in their territories, because they were so secret during the Soviet era and only Moscow was fully aware of it. In fact, new republics had lacked information about what they possessed, and subsequently how to take care of it, already overwhelmed with other priorities. In 1993, the US Embassy in Kazakhstan got used to receiving constant reports about detecting radiation in the shipments of scrap copper on Kazakh-Chinese border. Sure, it was alarming that Kazakh scavengers for copper wires went so far, but there is nothing they can do about it. The US cannot be a substitute for Kazakh authorities who are supposed to guard sites contaminated by radiation in order to stop scavengers. It was until the US military attaché in Kazakhstan went into shock when he learned that 600 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, enough to fabricate 24 nuclear warheads, idly sitting inside of the warehouse in eastern Kazakhstan in one of the so-called closed cities targeted by copper wire hunters. What happened next, known as Project Sapphire, jointly pulled off by US Department of Energy, State and Defense in conjunction with Kazakh government. In the 1990s, collecting copper wires wherever one can find them was not a choice. It was a necessity in order to survive for unemployed people. That phenomenon completely vanished before the 2000s, when Kazakhstan had experienced an economic boom due to favorable prices of natural resources, that is, exports. This euphoria was erased by the world financial crisis that came to Kazakhstan in 2008 and fully exploded in 2009. Since then, Kazakhstan's economy is still in recession. Many people lost their homes to foreclosure, and inequality started to rise, exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Nowadays, Kazakhstan has not had waste pickers on the streets, but has had people who are living in the surroundings of the city's landfill and who are making living out of it by collecting, sorting and selling recyclables such as glass, batteries and scrap metals. History repeats itself. As many years ago, middlemen have created demand for glass, batteries and scrap metals, and unemployed people supplied it to a major consumer right across the border, China.
Bravo!
Thank you.
Make sure this taped.